Hello? Peace out, y'all. Okay. So you feel good about, you know where you are with Makako? Okay. Let me put this live set here. How long is your 6 hours to be here? How long is your 6 hours to be here? Which pattern is that? Alright, let me just get down which
Hey everyone, we're Duke University and we're gonna have the drums set up for a second. My partner here, Jeffrey. So while he's doing that, I am going to play maybe some classical music for release. See if you guys recognize some of these.
Hey, Des, can you cut the drums real quick? Thank you, sir.
I think he's almost got it.
Des, I think we're good. All right.
Whenever you're ready, I'll just come and record you.
All right, hey everybody. Oh, we good? All right, my name is Jeffrey Obenhorst. I'm from Duke University. Um, I'm a junior now, time goes by, studying electrical engineering with a minor in music.
My name is Cece. I'm also from Duke University. I am a history biology double major, going to med school. And here we're really happy to be here with you today at the Smithsonian. Thank you so much for coming.
All right. So today we're going to talk about synthesizers. I think, oh, a quick note. Hey Des, could I get a little more of the monitors? Thank you, sir. All right. Yeah, so we're here to talk about synthesizers. I think the first question is, what is a synthesizer? The easy answer to that is it's a box of circuits that makes noise. That sounds kind of vague, but here it is. I think before that, you kind of have to ask, to understand what a synthesizer is, you have to understand what noise is. And so we're going to have Cece here to give a quick explanation of the science behind what's going on up here.
So, before synthesizers, we have to understand that we have sound first. So, what is a sound? The simplest way to describe a sound is that it's a pattern of waves. When we hear something that is musical, for example, a musical instrument, it's just saying that we have waves that form a regular pattern. So if you think about it, if we have a rubber band and we pluck it, we can see that there's a wave and the oscillation that is created. So, however, that doesn't sound musical because it doesn't create a regular pattern. So if you look at the monitor, you see how those long waves, those waves create very, very low sounds. So these are all created by long waves. But then we have high wave sounds, which is the ones that are shorter in length. And then you have waves that might not be so pleasant to your ears. And then we have soft and loud. So soft and loud is basically how high the waves look. And so if you think about it, like little waves from the sea, if they come crashing to the shore, you barely hear them. But if you have big waves coming in, it becomes louder, and you can hear them inside of your beach house if you have one and go to the beach on vacation. So that is basically what sound is created by, and that is what we call oscillation.
Hey, Cece, can you show us what a rubber band sounds like?
Okay, so this is what rubber band sounds like, and let's see if Jeffrey can imitate this sound on his synth.
All right.
So, while Jeffrey gets as close as possible, he's going to explain how we use oscillators, filters, and amplifiers to create that with a machine called a synthesizer.
I don't know what you can hear out there, but we're trying to approximate a rubber band. We can actually get pretty close. So I think you guys deserve an explanation. I'll see if I can come out here. Of what exactly a synthesizer is and how it works. We kind of gave a brief overview of how sound works. This is a smaller synthesizer. It's called the Moog Little Fatty. Moog produces all kinds of instruments. They made this back in 1968, and the company still continues today. So as you can see, you know, they kind of changed the profile, the size, the target market for these things, but they're still making them. The basic flow of synthesis, at least subtractive synthesis for all you synth nerds out there, you start with an oscillator, which we briefly overviewed. Then you go to a filter. You guys just heard the filter, that you didn't know it. Honestly, you've heard filters before in all kinds of music. There's all kinds of complicated math behind how they work, but at the end of the day, they basically just do this. And that's the second component of a synthesizer, at least this one. You got a few more bits, as you may imagine. You got an amplifier. An amplifier, as some of you may know, just takes noises and changes the loudness of them. So with this synthesizer, you can automate the parameter, which means you can change how loud it is with a few simple knob twists. So you can fade it in and out, you can change the dynamics, you can do all kinds of stuff. You can, we'll see if we can do a little something with a small delay patch. So I use this to demonstrate some of the parameters. So you can turn the filter down a little. And so you can change the attack, so you can make it fade in a little more. So this uses the softer sound, a little less bite. You can give it a little less release. So it fades out a little, you can let it ride. This, for those of you interested, this is called an arpeggiator. That little setting where it holds the notes without you doing anything. It's very useful in performance, as you can imagine. This particular synthesizer only plays only one note at a time, much like a saxophone or a trumpet. So you can use the arpeggiator to fake playing chords, because you normally can't do that. Very handy little feature. All right, we're going to move on here, and we're going to play a short song for you guys. Some of you may know it. It's called Linus and Lucy. Yeah. So what it looks like from up here. Let's see. So I think now you guys deserve an explanation of what this is. This is a Moog Modular Synthesizer 1C. This particular one is from 1968, so it's pretty old. My involvement with the instrument started in, it's got to be 2015 now, which is going back a few years now. Duke University had this, and through talking with some of the faculty, I discovered that it was in a state of disrepair. For a personal backstory, I got into synthesizers at like, the age of 12 or so. It'd been a personal dream of mine to play one of these things. I kind of wrote it off for a number of years because I said, I mean, what are the odds of me getting to play a beautiful instrument like this? They're expensive, they're rare, they're delicate. I mean, who am I? I'm just like a normal teenager. And it was something I kind of put on the shelf and never thought about until my time at Duke. So I talked with Dr. Scott Lindroth about, what's down here? Is this down here? You good? Thank you, sir. We talked to one of the faculty members about fixing it, and they were very supportive. They gave us funding. He helped me craft an independent study project for it, and I'm honored to present it to you all today. As you may imagine, with something this old and delicate, it's got its temperamental bits. Repair, restoration is a continuing process. We're still honored to present it today, and honestly, I'm very thankful to the university for giving me the chance to come out here and show it. It's been a great experience. If we could just give a hand to Duke University real quick.
So Jeffrey, before we get too much into technicals, why don't we explain what a modular synth is and why it's so special?
That's a good point, Cece. So synthesizers, the best analogy to a modular synthesizer is Legos with sound. With Legos, you have a ton of tiny little pieces, which you can put them together in all kinds of different ways, and you can create whatever you want, within reason. Some pieces don't fit together well with others. Sometimes the design that you want is, outside the scope of what you have with your pieces. But at the end of the day, you can give it enough parts, you can build just about anything. And so modular synthesizers work much the same way, just with sound. You have different blocks of circuits here. We talked about the filters in here. This unit right here is a filter. These two are amplifiers. These two are envelope generators. We've got another filter, some oscillators over here. And all these wires up here are my own attempt to create some of the sounds that I was thinking of. So without further ado, I think we'll go into a brief patch. This is the noise patch, so don't expect anything too fancy like what we had there. But for those of you who are familiar with these things, this is actually a very rare experience to be able to mess with this particular set of units. Des, could we get the white noise here? All right. So we have a basic white noise patch. It's coming out of a white noise generator. It's supposed to sound like static. But we're running it into a filter here, which will conveniently turn down. So what I've done here is I've filtered out all the frequencies, like Cece was saying. There are high frequencies, there are low frequencies. With white noise, they're all frequencies. And so I've taken all of them out. I'm going to add them in slowly, one by one. Space. Train coming down. A noisy night with crickets. Rain. Now we'll add in a oscillator into the envelope here, so we'll be able to change the loudness of the sound. So you can kind of imagine the seashore. We can keep this going here. Go a little faster, we can get a train. So before I get too lost in this instrument, as you can imagine, I spent many hours just goofing around, trying to create new sounds, think of different things. We're going to demonstrate some of the capabilities synthesizers have to create noises that haven't been envisioned before. I'll do this on a different synthesizer because of all the wires. You can only do so much without creating a huge mess, and as you can see, I'm already knee-deep. All right. So where are we here? Here's a musical sound. Let's see what we can do to it. was a brief demo of what you can do. I'll conclude this. We can move on to our next section. Hope you enjoyed this brief demo of synthesizers. All right, where are we here? All right. I think it would be fitting to give a brief explanation of how we as performers interact with these instruments. I, as a synth player, have a little more freedom than you might expect from, for example, piano. I think Cece maybe has a different argument here. But I think we're just going to take a bit of time to talk about how I play synthesizer and how she plays piano, and maybe some of the differences between.
So, as Jeffrey just showed you, you can have very simple sounds or very complicated sounds. So we have a more complex Lego of the White House. So, as we said, there's something called synths, but there's also something called piano. So I play a traditional instrument, and in the piano we have hammers that hit the strings. All of the lower strings are connected to maybe 2 or 3 strings, but basically on average, each piano, whether it's upright or whether it's a grand, has at least 2 strings, maybe 3 connected to each hammer that hits it. And so the hammers come kind of like a percussion instrument, and it hits the string, and then it makes a sound. So what I'm working with today is a bit different. It's a keyboard, and as you probably guys could tell, it makes different noises that are pre-recorded instrument sounds. And so that's a bit different than what I'm usually used to working with, but it's really cool. And I have to thank Jeffrey for letting me explore electronic instruments in a bit more sense. But let's get back to Jeffrey and see what he has to say about keyboards and synths.
Yeah. One of the most interesting things about synthesizers is the fact that we still use a piano keyboard to control them. Technology has changed a lot over the past 50, 60 years, especially as it relates to musical instruments. And so you might ask why we still use a piano keyboard, the idea of which has been around for a few hundred years now, to control something as complicated and really unique as a synthesizer. The answers to that are kind of rooted in history, but the future is no longer piano-shaped, as it were. These days, you can create sounds that, as you hopefully heard, you've never heard before, maybe you've never envisioned it before, but now you can create them using control interfaces that we've also previously never thought possible. Case in point, I have a small MIDI controller here. I'll see if I can stick my mic up. So this is a MIDI controller. And so it looks kind of futuristic. Believe it or not, it feels like skin when you play it. But what this does is it lets you control any physical expression, I think would be the word. Any physical expression that you have, you can input into the synthesizer. With this, as great as it is, all it really captures is, on a good day, how fast my finger goes down, when I pull it off, and how long I hold it for. With this, I can put my finger down, slide it around a little, do some vibrato, a few bends. I can move my finger up like this, change the filter cutoff. Anything that I can physically tell the instrument to do, it can do. And this wasn't possible 10, 15, even 20 years ago. More than being impossible, people just weren't thinking about it. Nobody was said, we're going to sit down and build an instrument that can handle anything that you physically want to tell it. I'll see if I can get hooked up here, but I think we'll give it over to Cece to talk about how she interfaces with pianos. And some of the differences between her playing styles and mine.
So Jeffrey is very, very impromptu, and he improvises a lot, but I kind of follow sheet music. And something that's very different when we were collaborating, trying to work on this project, is figuring out how to separate the pieces and also which parts to pre-sequence through the synths so that can be played out through the various wires you see. Honestly, I'm not quite sure what's happening there. And so something that's really interesting is that he is really into bass, but he also has to have the running melody to play through Angelique or to play through Fatty, as you see here. And so that kind of leaves me with, okay, so how does piano factor in as a bass and as a percussive background to the music? And so that's been really challenging because I usually play classical music, but this was a really good experience, and I've actually learned quite a lot. So we're gonna move on and talk about how synthesizers can go. They're everywhere. You can go online. You can go to different websites. These are just some links. They have websites online where you can play with the knobs, kind of just like touch on your phone. There are also apps, and they're very, very applicable. Synthesizers don't have to be hard. What Jeffrey here has is something that he really fixed up, and there was no manual, so it's rather difficult to do. However, it's really simple if you think about it. It's, as Jeffrey says, a box of circuits. You can start with one circuit, you can start with multiple, and with that, you can build different sounds. So, if you guys would like to try it out, there's also these websites that you can go to. Jeffrey, how's setup? How's setup?
I think we're good. Where are we here? I think that'd be a good time to take some questions. Cece, you want to play something? You want to play something? Yeah. You want to try Pokeball, and I'll join you? You want to Pokeball, and I'll join you? Cool. All right, let me get out of my cockpit here.
I'm going to start something that is very popular.
Okay. All right. So, hey guys, can I get the microphone? Sorry, what are you asking? Okay, sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. All right. So does anyone have any questions? Sorry about that. No questions? Oh. No?
I was just curious, how much does the mode cost?
Well, that's quite a question. Back in the day, they would have been about, I think, $15,000 to $20,000. Well, sorry, in today's currency, $15,000 to $20,000. I think you could get one of these for about $3,000. Somebody from the Vogue Factory said that this one was worth about $40,000. Apparently, they appreciate over time. So I'm very honored to play it. It's a wonderful privilege to be part of this project, and yeah, not exactly within reach of the average human.
The first song you guys played was a Snarky Puppy chart. What are some of your musical influences?
Oh, let's see. My musical instrument influences have seen a lot of Norwegian disco as of recently. I don't know why. I think, Snarky Puppy, Todd Tarea, let's see. Victor Wooten, obviously. I started out on bass. That was like my first real instrument. So I think a lot of bass musicians that's where I lived. I think to a degree where I still live. I personally think that Little Fatty over here sounds best in that lower range, right, a couple octaves down below middle C.
How many different types of oscillators are in that particular Moog? And also, are you capable of doing FM and AM synthesis?
That's a great question. Thank you. So you asked about FM and AM synthesis. I don't know much about AM synthesis. FM synthesis stands for frequency modulation synthesis. And now that you asked that, I'm very thankful that you did. I'll give a quick demo of what FM synthesis could be. This is a subtractive synthesizer for all you audio nerds out here. I don't expect everybody to just randomly know that. But we have one oscillator, and now we'll change So we've got is we're changing the pitch of the oscillator. So you see, it's constant, and now you're using another oscillator to change how high or low it is. So the thing about frequency modulation synthesis is it's usually it's usually relegated to digital machines. It's possible with analog synthesizers. It's a lot of work, though. The difficulty with FM synthesis is it's not very intuitive. I can't just connect to it in the same way that I do this. Does that answer your question? Oh, yeah, and oscillators. This unit has 3 oscillators on it. It's beautiful. You can use one as a low-frequency oscillator, and the other 2 are in the more musical range. There are synthesizers out there with more than a dozen oscillators. It really all depends on what you're going for. But for this particular unit, that's what we've got. Hey.
So you said the Moog there was in disrepair when you found it. What kind of issues, what breaks on something like that?
Oh, yeah. Well, in a strange reality is strange. So you would expect, I would expect, the internal circuitry to be the most degraded over the time. I mean, the thing's 40 years old, right? But most of the transistors are still working, which is what you'd expect to fail. The biggest issue we had was the power supply. As you can imagine, Moog doesn't just make those power supplies anymore, so we'd use an off-the-shelf industrial solution to bring it back to life. So I think that was the most time-consuming part of the process. Potentiometers are old, but all things considered, it's in wonderful shape for what it is, being 40 years old. Yes, sir. I think this will be the last question.
So you talked about the Rolly C-board. How do you feel about digital synthesizers all being on a laptop without even having to have any real analog gear nowadays? Like programming everything in MIDI, for example.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that, too. So the Rolly is, for those of you who didn't get to hear his question, the Rolly controls, it's digital, so it's not analog. What I actually have here, and I think I can unplug this with some, we'll just leave it. This is a Eurorack case, and so this, you can actually use this to interface with analog gear, and sometimes what I'm able to do is I'll take out the Rolly, I'll plug it in, and I can play the Moog, I can play the little fatty. And I think, for me personally, analog gear is what I'll stick with for a long time. I'll explore other things, but this is my primary area of expertise. I connect with them more, right? I think for me and a lot of other musicians, having everything inside the computer is just too abstract. You make a patch, you connect some wires. What you're really just doing is pointing and clicking. And even on this, as you can imagine, I lose track of things. I can lose track of things pretty quick if I'm not careful. You plug a couple wires in, you forget what they do, you move on, you come back 2 hours later, you have no idea what you were thinking then or what sounds you're trying to make. But you can take it back, you can say, all right, this goes here, this goes here. You can figure it out. You can reverse engineer what you were trying to do. With digital synthesizers, you don't have that same intuitive layer, and I think that's one of the reasons that digital synthesizers have posed such a challenge to musicians in the Common Era. All right, I think we have to move on here, but we got our last song. What? We got 5 minutes. All right, you want to move straight into Alfonso? So this will be our last song here. It's by an artist called Todd Tarea. He's, as I may have alluded to, Norwegian. It's in 7/4. It's kind of a jazz piece. We're going to take a few seconds to get configured here, but we hope you like it. And thanks for coming out. We're missing one cable. Thank you for coming, everybody. That's all we have.